I'm on a business trip, you know. Did you ever stop to think about that before you freaking called me?
I'm sorry. May's hurt and she wants to see her daddy. I told her many times that you're on a trip somewhere else, but she won't listen to me.
What's she got to do with any of this, woman? Calling me while I'm working. That's just freaking insane. She's only got hurt because you weren't looking after her properly. I'm sure it's just a scratch anyway, so I suggest you calm the hell down and don't worry about it. It's not like her life's in danger now, is it? Don't call me when I'm working, under any circumstance. If that'll be all, I'm hanging up. You caught me right in the middle of an important meeting.
I couldn't understand why he wouldn't listen to me, especially when there was an emergency with his own daughter. Look, Mommy, why is Daddy on the TV? Oh, so that's what this is all about. I'm gonna frickin' destroy him. When I saw the footage on the television, I decided to take revenge on my husband. May deserved to see her father when she was having a crisis, and neither of us deserved the behavior he displayed. He was going to pay, and boy oh boy was he going to pay well. My name is Kimberly O'Driscoll. I'm 32 years old, and I work in an accounting office for a sporting goods company. I live with my husband, Dexter, and our 3-year-old daughter, May. I met my husband through work 6 years ago. It all started when I went to his office as someone offering a business partnership. We cooperated pretty well, and sometimes our negotiations led us to go out to dinner a few times. Dexter then confessed to me about a month after we started working together. We had a lot to talk about, and I always had a lot of fun with him, so I decided to accept his feelings and go out with him. After 2 years of being together, he proposed to me, and we ended up getting married. A year after that, I got pregnant, and 9 months after that, May blessed us with her birth. When Dexter found out that May was conceived, he was over the moon. He literally started to dance a little when he got home from work that day, when I told him the news.
Is it really okay for me to be this happy?
Of course it's okay. We decided to be together, to be happy after all.
Oh, Kimberly, thank you so much. I love you.
If he was such a happy person when he discovered his wife was pregnant with his child, I knew he would continue to make us happy. And my baby? Oh my goodness! May was the cutest thing I'd ever seen. So, this is what they mean when they say that someone's the apple of one's eye. I could spend entire days just watching her sleep, squirm, move. It was my first time raising a child, after all, so of course Dexter and I worked together to raise our daughter. I went back to work as soon as May turned a year old. My job had given me maternity leave, and I decided to go back. After I came back, I was allowed to work shorter hours because of daycare. It's hard to do the job I've been doing during shorter hours, but May and Dexter gave me the motivation and the energy to do my best. However, when I went back to work and when May started going to daycare, Dexter's behavior suddenly got strange. He used to go straight to his daughter when he came home, holding her and playing with her, but soon after...
I brought home some work with me tonight, so I'm gonna get that done in my room. All right?
Instead of spending time with his daughter, as he usually did, he promptly went to his room to work. He didn't even eat dinner with us. He would go down to the living room and eat alone after a while, and went to bed. Inevitably, the conversation between us became more and more scarce. We spent less and less time together too. On weekends, when May's around, we did talk, but if May wasn't there were times when not even a single word was uttered between us. He also said he had to work overtime, and that there was a new temporary policy at his company that stated employees can only come home at a fixed time only 23 times a month. May never saw her daddy on weekdays anymore. Daddy hasn't been around very much lately, has he? You must miss him, huh? I'm sorry, darling, but your daddy's working so hard for both of us. I know you miss him, but please be patient and play with Mommy for a while, okay? But on his next day off, we're going to the aquarium, aren't we? That's so awesome! Let's be a good girl until bedtime, okay, darling? Yeah! The next holiday Dexter had was during a 3-day weekend, so as a family service, he promised to take us to the aquarium. May was looking forward to it so much. But on Friday...
Sorry, honey, but about my holiday this weekend. I can't go anymore because of work.
Oh no! Why would they do that? May was really looking forward to it, you know? You've never had to work on a holiday before.
It's a business trip, and I'm staying overnight.
Staying overnight? Isn't that pretty unprofessional? Why would your company ask you to go on a business trip on a rightfully deserved holiday?
Why am I being held responsible for something when I have no other choice? Because this is about work.
Because... As we were arguing, May waddled over. Oh, May, sweetie, I'm sorry, but Daddy has to work again starting tomorrow. Why? You promised, Daddy. She started to cry. Who can blame her, honestly? She's been looking forward to it for so long. Perhaps Dexter felt sorry for her. He apologized many times and promised her he'd bring back something delicious for a present. May didn't seem satisfied. May, my darling, I don't think we can help it. Daddy just has to go on this business trip. Let's go out and do something fun with Mommy, okay? I hate you, Daddy.
May, sweetie, I'm so sorry.
Mommy, I'm going to bed now. Tuck me in, please. May went to the bedroom fuming and stayed while I was tucking her in. I wouldn't have been surprised if I discovered her pillow drenched with tears the next morning. The next day, Dexter went on his so-called business trip. I say so-called because for some reason he seemed very enthusiastic about leaving. He had the biggest grin on his face as I waved at him, wishing him a safe trip. May was still angry with her daddy, but what else can you do when he's not there? We decided to go to a nearby park to play. When we arrived, May suddenly started running towards a little girl who was with a man that seemed to be her father. I recognized the little girl. Riley!
Look, Daddy, it's May. May came to see us.
It was Riley, whom May was good friends with at preschool. She had come to the park with her father, Mr. Harding. To tell the truth, I was so relieved to find people we knew playing in the park. There's only so much I can do with just the two of us, especially with what's been going on with Dexter. I couldn't entertain her as much as I maybe could at the aquarium. As I let May run off with her friend Riley, I sat down on a bench nearby, keeping a close eye on the children as they started talking to Mr. Harding.
My wife is not at home as often as she used to be. She says she's busy with work. That's why I'm in charge of taking care of our daughter on my days off. But at her age, there's a limit to what we can do inside the house. Wouldn't you agree?
I do, 1,000%. We were supposed to go to the aquarium today, but my husband suddenly had to go on a business trip out of the blue.
Oh, that must be rough. My wife is also working so hard these days, and I just worry about her so much. I'd like her to take the day off whenever she gets the chance. Her being away every week, away from her daughter, who needs her mommy, is a little tough.
That's so sweet of you. Someone who thinks like that? I'm sure any wife would be proud to call you their husband.
I sure do hope so.
Mr. Harding looked a little sad. Is something wrong?
I'm sorry? Oh, no, it's nothing at all. This is not the kind of thing to say to the mother of my daughter's friend.
Oh my, I'm sorry to hear that. I know it's hard to talk about it, but I'm sure you'll feel better after you let it out.
I'm sure it will. Okay. You're right. Honestly, my wife's been acting strange. I think she may be having an affair.
As he explained his situation, it seemed Mr. Harding was genuinely suspecting his wife was cheating on him. What was especially disturbing was the fact that his explanations of his wife's recent behavior was extremely similar to Dexter's. Going out on weekends, leaving his child in his care on weekdays when he reported he could go home early, leaving the two of them together to go out and do some things on her own. Riley now seems to be spending more time with her father than with her mother. She'd apparently become so attached to him that unless Mr. Harding tucked her in and stayed with her for a while, she wouldn't fall asleep. As we were talking about such things, I heard someone crying in the distance. It was May's voice. Horrified, I turned toward the sound and discovered that May had fallen off the slide. Riley was startled and crying too. I quickly rushed to her side and took her to the hospital. We said our goodbyes to Riley and Mr. Harding beforehand, of course, telling him that he would figure everything out in due time. He seemed worried about my darling May, but he smiled, reassured, when I consoled him about his situation. When we got to the hospital, we had an x-ray and found out that May's arm was broken. Her leg was also bruised, and the doctor instructed me to give her time for a while to rest and recover. She was in lots of pain and started to whimper pitifully.
I want to see Daddy. I wish he was here. It wouldn't hurt so much if Daddy was here next to me.
I know. I'm so sorry, darling.
I want Daddy. Daddy.
May was being pretty loud, complaining about how her daddy wasn't there for her. She was absolutely right. Not only did she need Dexter there, but so did I. Who was going to do the shopping for dinner tonight? Shopping while having to carry May, who has a broken arm, was going to be tough, if not impossible. May's already bigger than she used to be. An ordinary single woman can't go shopping and carry a 3-year-old all by myself. That needs a lot of physical and mental strength. It was a legitimate emergency, and I was worried sick about how I was going to handle this. I hoped, with all my heart, that Dexter might come home, and that hope drove me to call him.
What the hell do you want? I'm working right now.
I'm sorry. May's broken her arm at the playground this afternoon. And there's a lot of housework to be done. Could you maybe come home? So we can have someone to look after her while I do the shopping, cooking, and vacuuming. She wants to see her daddy so badly. I told her many times that you're on a trip somewhere else, but she won't listen to me.
What the hell? I'm on a business trip, you know. Did you ever stop to think about that before you freaking called me? You really believe I'm gonna come back home just because my daughter, quote, broke her arm?
Think about it. Honey, I can't even go shopping because she can't walk beside me, and carrying her is a very tiring thing to do. The pain's making her squirm too, so I can't leave her alone while I do the cooking.
Do you hear me giving a goddamn about all that stupid nonsense? I'm working. Don't call me on the phone for that kind of bullshit.
And with that, Dexter hung up. I told May that her daddy couldn't come home. I'm sorry, darling. Daddy has a hard day at work, and he still isn't finished. I don't think he can come home today.
Daddy, I miss you so much.
I thought she was going to start crying immediately after she said that, but suddenly, she pointed at the TV and said happily,
Look, Mommy, it's Daddy. And there's Riley's mommy. Daddy's not at work. He's having fun with a friend of his, and I wanna play too, Daddy.
What are you talking about, darling? I told you Daddy's not here. He's at work.
He's not at work, Mommy. Look at him.
Is what she was telling me? I had absolutely no clue what she was talking about, so I looked at the TV, and there he was. Dexter walking arm in arm with a woman who was none other than Riley's mother, Mr. Harding's wife. It was a holiday weekend, so the channel was covering a famous tourist spot, and behind the person that was being interviewed by some reporters was Dexter and Mrs. Harding. Their arms were around each other's as if they were lovers. When I saw them, all the things I had been holding back suddenly started to explode. First, I quickly hit the record button and recorded the footage. I then turned off the TV. I took May to her room. Obviously, I was upset, but May was playing with her toys, as if nothing had happened. Or, more accurately, as though she had no idea how much help she had been in shedding light on all of my doubts about my husband. But my heart was still racing, and it was in the worst way imaginable, excluding cardiovascular trouble. Watching May play happily with her toys, I started to frantically think about what I should do from then on. But I couldn't come up with an answer that quickly, and before I knew it, an hour of playing with May had passed. During the whole time, all I could think about was Dexter and how he betrayed all of us. Then the doorbell rang. I went to answer the door, and there stood Riley and her father, Mr. Harding.
Is she all right? That fall earlier looked pretty nasty.
Are you okay, May? My arm hurts a little, but I'm very okay.
An x-ray showed a clean fracture of her arm, I'm afraid.
Come on, Riley. Let's go play.
As she said so, May pulled Riley into the house using her arm that wasn't broken. The timing couldn't have been any more perfect, because I just had something to talk about with Mr. Harding. We left the two girls in May's room to play in and watch a cute children's movie, and I told Mr. Harding about what I'd discovered earlier that evening, and showed him the TV footage.
I know this is hard to believe, but this is undoubtedly my wife.
I'm sure these two have been having an affair for quite a long time. May was just a year old when I got her registered in daycare, and right around then is when my husband started coming home late. And our conversations started to become short and scarce.
Yeah. We also put our Riley into daycare when she was 1 year old too, and coincidentally enough, that was also when Diana started to act out of the ordinary.
Well, since this is solid evidence against them, I'm filing for divorce. What are you going to do, sir?
File for divorce too, unquestionably.
I'm sorry for what he did to your wife. I'm so terribly ashamed, and I won't blame you if you never forgave me.
Oh, no, my dear Mrs. O'Driscoll. You didn't do anything wrong. If anything, I should be the one to apologize. My wife's always been the flirty sort. While I'd forced myself, she would remain faithful. A part of me always suspected something like this would happen. In any case, we don't know who came on to whom first, but one thing is certain. We cannot let them go on like this.
So, because our daughters fell asleep while watching the movie, Mr. Harding had all the time in the world to forge a plan to send them both to hell. The day they were coming back from their trip arrived quickly. Since it was a holiday weekend, we were going to have a party at my place. So we'd told each of our partners to make their way to my house once they arrived at the train station. On that day, the two even took the trouble to drop in at different times.
I brought something back for May. Some souvenirs I thought she'd like.
Thanks, honey. How thoughtful. Put them on the table and just make yourself comfortable. I can't wait for Diana to get here.
I'm sure she'll be here soon.
I'm sure she will. I think you know that better than anyone.
Huh?
Making sure I handled the scumbag playing dumb properly, I made eye contact with Mr. Harding. May and Riley didn't deserve to get involved in a dispute of fully grown adults like this, so while I gave May to my parents, Mr. Harding gave Riley to his. Eventually, Riley's mother, Diana Harding, dropped in. I found how truly heartless Dexter really was, because once she stepped into the living room, A look of gleeful delight spread across his face. How could he look so happy when he's just about to go to hell?
We're all here at long last.
Hey, where are the girls? We thought having a party with just the adults would be nice. We're watching a movie, actually. There's one I've been wanting to see for quite some time now. And with that, I turned on the TV, and when they saw what was on the screen, they were completely dumbfounded. Of course they were, because it was the footage of them having an affair. They were caught red-handed, right in the act of cheating on each other's spouses.
We just happened to meet by coincidence over the course of the business trip.
Did you hear that, Mr. Harding? Apparently, it was a coincidence, and still they were walking arm in arm.
That's incredible, Mrs. O'Driscoll. And now, without further ado, let's move on to the next scene. My wife's excuse.
No. This is... The two of them were clearly speechless. Then Dexter suddenly stands up and says,
I'm so sorry. I confess. Believe me when I tell you this. This is all just for fun. The only person I truly love is you, Kimberly. I just feel like I've grown distant from you since we had our daughter. I missed you, and I was feeling pretty lonely.
Same for me. I'm just playing around too, and we only started because we both missed our spouses so much. Honest. We've become close because we can relate to each other's loneliness.
That's exactly the problem, ma'am.
Well then, shall we make this party's theme divorce then? We even brought something to make it more authentic. As I said so, Mr. Harding and I brought out the divorce papers. And here's the especially juicy part. They both said they didn't want to get a divorce. It's one thing if you're working on a business trip during a national holiday, but going on a trip with a woman whose daughter goes to the same daycare as your own? That's a whole different level of betrayal, my good sir. How can you say that when you stood up your own daughter, knowing she was really looking forward to going to the aquarium with her father?
That's...
Please, anything but a divorce, please.
We decline.
We didn't back down even a single goddamn millimeter. We went through with the divorce, and perhaps they both gave up, because they started signing the divorce papers. I am going to move out, and I hope you have a nice rest of your life in this fine house.
I'm so sorry. And as for you, you will get the hell out of my house. I'm taking custody of our daughter, and I'm going to raise her. I can't let her grow up to become someone disloyal and unfaithful as you.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. As for the child support and alimony, we'll each have lawyers to help file a claim of demands against both of you. I trust both of you will be responsible for your actions and do the right thing. With that, I got my luggage and headed for my parents' house. Mr. Harding temporarily left home too, leaving the two of them behind. I'm sure they both thought they were lucky to be able to get rid of us without ever having to do anything themselves. I don't know how they're going to pay the alimony and child support, while also paying off the mortgage on my house. Well, I'm a stranger to them now, so I don't really care, honestly. As for Dexter, his crime was that he pretended to be on a business trip to have an affair with Diana. As such, the money his job paid for his trip and his stay was used illegitimately, and the discovery of that cost him his job. His bigger crime was that he couldn't comprehend what was so wrong with what he did. And thereafter, when he went on interviews to apply for other jobs, he complained about his old company. Not only that, he even went so far as to explain what he did to those who interviewed him. I wonder why. He couldn't get a new job at all after everything blew over. And yet the demands for alimony, child support payments, and house mortgage kept rolling in. Nowadays, he's apparently desperately working part-time, day and night, to make ends meet. And Diana, well, she moved into Dexter's house, but she was also fired from her job. She maybe thought that if she stayed with Dexter, who was plagued with loads and loads of demands to pay for multiple things, she'd go bankrupt too. So she took the easy way out and ran off as soon as she could. Even Diana, who earns a decent amount of money now, has the weight of alimony and child support to Mr. Harding, and alimony to me as well. Has a hard time making ends meet. She continues to work part-time after she's finished with her full-time job, I hear. She did ruin her family, so I guess it can't be helped. As for me, I took my daughter with me and went back to my parents' house, which isn't that far away. That allowed May to go to the same daycare, without any change. Not even in her friends, and she and Riley have become very close. I meet Mr. Harding on occasion, and he seems to be doing well for himself. He actually just recently got a huge promotion. I'm sure that from now on, I might feel a little lonely because I'm raising my daughter as a single parent, but that won't stop me from giving my darling daughter so much love. You would think it would be impossible for a single parent to love that much. I'm going to live happy, and I'm going to do my best to give my daughter the best life she deserves.